Graveyard Grams Midnight Ride. We are back on, boys. It is 9 to midnight, and I am almost to work. There are probably 100,000 channels on YouTube that do movie stuff. Some short, some long, some whatever. You got the really, really popular ones like Honest Trailers, Pitch Meeting. What's the other one? How It Should Have Ended. Those are kind of the obvious ones. I dip in and out on Honest Trailers from time to time, but the main ones that I watch are Pitch Meeting. Ryan George is just brilliant. Critical Drinker. He's gotten a lot more. What's the right way to say this? So, like, he was really, really edgy in the first couple of years of his rising stardom, and he still does some of his signature humor and everything. But you can tell that as he's reached a broader audience, he's really taking his role as a critic voice seriously. He's not just doing it to do it his way. He's trying to be real as a critic, and there's a maturity to that I appreciate. But there are still plenty of accounts out there that are just being funny with movie reviews, and one of them that I don't think gets as much play as it deserves is Space Ice. That's the name of the channel. The guy who runs it, his gamer tag is Sparky. This dude is freaking hilarious. I think a big reason why he flies under the radar is most of the movies he reviews are terrible. Scratch that. All of the movies he reviews are terrible, and about 85% of them are Steven Seagal movies. And if he's not reviewing a Steven Seagal movie, he's making a Steven Seagal joke in a movie that doesn't have anything to do with Steven Seagal. He's reviewed a couple of the Fast and Furious movies, and protester. He recently did a video about Battlefield Earth, which came out in the year 2000. In a strange swing of synchronicity, Ryan George also did a pitch meeting for Battlefield Earth that same week. Usually that only happens if some special edition of a movie got released or if they hit some anniversary or something. I don't know what happened with this movie. It's just weird that two big channels covered it at the same time without there being anything else really obvious attached to it. If you've never seen this movie, and if you're fortunate enough to have never heard of it, it's one of the most notorious bombs, not just commercially, but critically, creatively, all of that, ever made. Especially because there are a lot of big names attached to it. Two of the leads are played by John Travolta and Forrest Whitaker. And the main character, the main protagonist, played by Barry Pepper, right after he was in Saving Private Ryan. So he had a name for himself at this point, so what the hell? This movie was based on a book, and when I was 15, I remember seeing trailers for the movie, and it's critically important for you guys to know this. At age 15, I had zero taste. I knew nothing about story. I only knew that I was very, very driven to be a writer, so I would hammer out these novels that just wandered all over the place. All of the technical stuff was wrong. I just knew that I wanted to put my daydreams on paper, which is a fine place to start, don't get me wrong. But it made it hard for me to discern things that were good from things that were bad in storytelling. Now, some of you will be piping up and saying, well, that's a matter of subjectivity. If somebody likes it, that means that it's good. There's a degree of that, don't get me wrong. But there are works that are just objectively bad, and Battlefield Earth is one of them. I went to some movie that year. I saw a trailer for Battlefield Earth. It seemed to hit the right notes for me. It's like, oh, cool, we're going to have scrappy rebels fighting off an alien invasion in a post-apocalyptic landscape, and there's going to be fighter jet stuff, and cool, and maybe all of those elements were in the movie, but none of it came together. Nevertheless, they released a movie tie-in edition paperback novel that I grabbed at a bookstore for, I can't remember how much. It wasn't that much, but it had John Travolta and the aliens on the cover. It was like, okay, cool. And I must have read that book 4 or 5 times because I thought it had cool stuff in it, and there were pieces of something good. But remember, I didn't know how to tell a good book from a bad book. I just enjoyed the parts that I enjoyed. Now looking back on it these 25 years later, I can say that woo damn. So what the hell is this book about? The idea is that in the year 2000, aliens showed up on Earth. They dropped nerve gas on most of the population, and then they brought in a mining operation to strip mine the planet of its valuable resources. They've done so to their home world and to most of the worlds around them, and now it's just resource extraction. Earth is rich in a lot of things that they need and don't have. Tungsten was one of them and stuff, but the main thing that they're after is they want gold. 1,000 years after this invasion, mankind is an endangered species, and people are living in the mountains of remote places and whatever. Like, they're not bothering the aliens aren't bothering them. The aliens can't breathe our atmosphere. They have to live in dome cities over these mine sites, or else they have to walk around outside with masks. And when the humans go into the dome cities, they also have to wear masks to breathe oxygen. One human who's a little bit smarter than the rest gets captured by one of these aliens who wants him for a special experiment. He hammers knowledge into his head to teach him things, and wants to use him to lead a whole bunch of other humans on a mining expedition to extract gold from a vein in the mountains in Colorado that the alien will then use to make himself rich back on the home world. There are people that he pissed off back on the alien home world, and they've exiled him to Earth. He's like, no, I think I can get back. On its face, that doesn't sound terrible. It's all lost in the execution. One of the most crushing weaknesses of this book is the world building. The names for things, the way that it's all presented. Some of the science tidbits were accessible to the reader, and other times it's like, oh, what the hell, like, this wouldn't work. The movie only covers like maybe a quarter to a third of what happens in the book, and I'm not going to waste time explaining it all here. Basically, the humans beat the bad guy aliens, but then there's a power vacuum, and about a dozen other alien forces come to Earth to take it over, and Earth has to cycle up really fast in terms of alliances and resource manipulation, and taking all the extra alien tech that's lying around and using it to defend themselves and fight off bankers that are moving in. And it's a soft and poor analog for things that happened after the American Revolution or the French Revolution, the Russian Revolution, maybe when like the established system is thrown off, and now you've got to fight to preserve what you've secured, but you might not necessarily know how. The protagonist is really short on any vices and heavy on virtues. Like, he doesn't really make a whole lot of mistakes, and it's poorly done from there. I can say, looking back at it now, that L. Ron Hubbard, the guy who founded the Church of Scientology, and I don't know a whole lot about this dude's life outside of that, other than apparently he was a con man and a huckster, and just didn't really have the highest opinion of humanity. I really get the impression that he was trying to write a version of Dune that was a little bit closer to our time and a little bit closer to the ground. Instead of spice, it was gold. Instead of just humans, there were aliens, but it was weird. And the movie was an absolute dog crap adaptation of an absolute dog crap book that I only enjoyed because I was in my absolute dog crap era. So I make no defenses for what I liked back then, but it goes back to that thing that Louis L'Amour said, that at first it doesn't matter what you read, only that you read. Because that was a big, how many hundreds of pages was that brick of a book that I read a lot, because my imagination was mostly like empty or full of anime. Imagine reading a book that's so bad that it's better than a lot of the anime that you're watching on Toonami. Nevertheless, it did its job. I think the strengths of it, the things that I kept going back to read in it, were about scrappy human survivors living on Stone Age tech that suddenly had to scale up really fast with alien innovations and outwit people that didn't think that they were capable of being outwitted. There is something there, And I think that's what I was holding on to. But looking back now, I can see that just the layers of gratuitous bullcrap under which it was buried. It would be a long and exhaustive process for me to list it all here, and I'm just not going to do it. This isn't the kind of thing that would be valuable for me to put time into for a future project. It's just a bad book. It deserves to die on the scrap heap of history, and the movie should never have been made, and it rightly failed. That's my 2 cents on Battlefield Earth. But hey, at least Ryan George and Sparky got a few laughs out of it, and I'm glad they did. That's about all that movie is good for. I've thought from time to time about becoming a movie type channel on here, but it's not really in line with my ethos. It's that thing where I would be chasing somebody else's successful model, and I don't want to do that. Obviously, my strength lies in summary and analysis. Some of my most popular videos are more in that vein, and I think with some slightly increased production values, I could do something that's more authentically me. One that I'm going to work on once I get Howling Wilderness done and out is my Pride and Prejudice video, because I have read the book, watched the 2005 movie, and also watched the 1995 BBC A&E series. I have some really good ideas for that, and I think whether I'm doing a classic or a more recent series or whatever, if I were to keep doing summary videos with better values, more in the vein of the Aragon thing, but even better than that, then I would really have something to sink my teeth into. But in summary, don't read Battlefield Earth, don't watch the movie, but do go watch the Space Ice video and the Ryan George video, because they hit a lot of similar points. They did it in different ways with their signature wit. I will link them in the description below. Till next time, drive safe. See you out there.